All right, so I think the biggest news from this last week has to be the new concept from Ford, so we're gonna talk about that today. That is the new Ford F-150 Switchgear demonstration. So this is actually a demonstration vehicle, show kind of what Ford might be going with in direction, and I'm actually kind of surprised Ford hasn't done this yet. The F-150 Lightning has been out for a little bit now, and I've always been a little bit surprised why they didn't come out with an electric version of it, considering they have the F-150 Lightning that I think has been out for 2 years now or so. But it only kind of made sense for them to create a performance version of that truck in the way that they did with the Raptor. And I think this concept vehicle that we're seeing today is going to be kind of a foreshadowing of what we're going to be seeing here soon. Of course, like most concept vehicles, Ford created it to kind of feel out how the public thinks about it and see if people do want a high performance off-road electric pickup truck. And so we'll kind of see where that goes. I am a little bit worried it may not happen, especially with the recent news that Ford is cutting production of the F-150 Lightning by up to 50%, but they might actually build this truck just to try to get that demand up for the pickup truck to kind of create it as a halo truck for that brand. But of course, we'll only wait and see for that. So let's go ahead and get into what the switchgear really is. So this concept is actually based on the F-150 Lightning XLT that has the dual motor and the extended range battery. That means it gets 580 horsepower and 775 pound-foot of torque. I wish the figures were a little bit higher, of course, just like everybody else. However, they're doing with what they have, but I would expect if this does go into production, I'm gonna bet they'll have higher horsepower, considering another demonstration vehicle, which is another prototype, which is the Mach-E 1400, had 1400 horsepower. I think they're gonna bump it up if this ever does go into production. Now, this Raptorized F-150 Lightning comes with Fox 3-inch internal bypass shock absorbers, helping get 3 inches of travel in the front and 13 inches in the rear, which I personally think the truck's gonna have to work pretty hard considering the base Lightning, not including all the extra features on the switchgear, is at 8,550 pounds gross vehicle weight. Now, to help out with that suspension, it does come with a custom double wishbone setup and a multi-link independent rear suspension. It also has a stabilizer bar and custom control arms. Before we continue on with this video, I do want to ask you to like and subscribe this video if you have found it helpful or entertaining at all. So back to the video. Now, of course, the suspension, just like the standard Raptor, is kind of the biggest component to a truck like this. There are some pretty major differences on the exterior of the truck as well. For example, pretty much every body panel on this vehicle is completely custom with a wide body kit in the front fenders and rear bed that are all made of a carbon composite, which makes this truck a total of 80 inches wide instead of the standard 68 inches that we see on the standard F-150. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a Raptor. And then of course you wouldn't be anywhere with some impressive tires, as this does have some Nitto grappler tires. Some other cool features is that this actually has a massive handbrake for drifting off-road, and it does have a spare wheel in the bed of the truck via a custom rack. And going back to the interior, one of the weirdest features of this truck is the fact that it has 5 Recaro seats in it, replacing the standard bucket seats in the front and the bench seat in the back. So this is actually a really impressive pickup truck, but we'll see if it ever really does go into production. If people continue to like the F-150 Lightning, it is highly likely that they're gonna have the Raptor coming out. They may still come out with an electrified Raptor. However, we'll kind of see where that goes. I personally think it would be awesome to see an electric off-road pickup truck like this to compete with things like the Hummer EV, but I guess we'll see. I think it's a cool truck. What do you guys think? Leave it down in the comments. I would love to hear from you guys. Would you buy an electrified F-150 Raptor R, or is this just wishful thinking on Ford's part?